Folks, the Elias Pettersson situation with the Vancouver Canucks has just gotten a lot worse. If you don't know, Pettersson is an RFA after this season, and we just got recent word about his contract negotiations not going well at all with Vancouver. But what does this mean? Will Elias Pettersson lead the Vancouver Canucks in a trade perhaps, and who could actually end up getting him? We're going to be dissecting every little part of this story with all the trade rumors and all the news, so make sure you watch till the end for all of that, and make sure you hit that subscribe button as well if you're new for more hockey content and trade rumor content just like this as we lead up to the deadline this year, folks. Now, over the past 24 hours, we had a lot of different insiders talking about the Pettersson situation, Elliotte Friedman especially dropping some major bombs. Now, we will get into all of that in just a minute, but first, let's talk about today's sponsor in BetUS. BetUS is actually offering you guys a great deal right now. If you use code JOIN125 on your first 3 deposits, you'll get a 125% sign-up bonus. And of course, BetUS is the place to be in both the US and Canada to make daily NHL picks and sports picks whenever you want. And for the Canucks fans as well watching, and really anybody watching out there, it's interesting as well, their Stanley Cup odds. Right now, they're at plus 1,200. And if you were to put $20 down, you could win $240 in the end if they were to win the Stanley Cup this year, which with how solid they've been, could be a possibility. And of course, with BetUS, you get 24-hour customer service as well as 24-hour payouts. BetUS is the place to bet in both the US and Canada. And of course, if you want to sign up, go in the description, click on the link and sign up there. And of course, don't forget to use code JOIN125. Thank you so much to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, and let's get right back into it. Now, let's get into the Elias Pettersson trade rumors that have really been bubbling over the last 48 hours with so many different reports and a lot of new rumors coming out with his RFA status after this next year. We had a lot of talk of the season over how Pettersson just wanted to delay things, wanted to wait until after this year to talk, but now we got a lot more word that he might not just re-sign in the end. He might just be gone. Coming from Rick Dhaliwal, the best Canucks insider, he says the Canucks aren't getting any indication from Pettersson that he wants to be here long term. There's frustration there, and he has no intel that he actually wants out. But again, considering all his moves throughout this negotiation, really just not having much of a negotiation at all, and also just the inklings from around the team and the franchise as well, it seems like there is some worry that he'll even stay a Vancouver Canuck past this year. Also going on to say, up until now, I always thought EP would re-sign, but I'm not so sure now. So it really just casts a big storm cloud over this Canucks franchise, who has had such a great year, a franchise year for this core. And now their star center might be out and might be gone next season. Now, there are some limitations to that. Of course, with Pettersson being a free agent, he isn't an unrestricted free agent. He is an RFA. So the Canucks will still have some security over Pettersson and some control over what happens with him. If we were to see a trade, we would see his RFA rights likely dealt. But of course, considering his contract right now at $7.3 million, which has been a steal up to this point, Pettersson obviously wants a big payday. But the big thing also in that Rick Dhaliwal segment that he was talking about with Pettersson and the contract negotiations, he actually talked about a contract that Vancouver offered Pettersson that he turned down. According to Rick Dhaliwal, he was offered 8 years at $12 million and declined that deal with the Vancouver Canucks. These are NHL players right now ranked by cap hit. You got McKinnon 1, McDavid 2, Panarin 3, and then you go over to their actual cap hits. And if Elias Pettersson ended up signing the deal yesterday, he would be the third highest paid player in the entire NHL next season. He would immediately become number 3, right behind McDavid, only making $500K less than him in terms of pure cap hit. Obviously, salary might end up being different, but Pettersson would have immediately gotten the bag, yet he turned that down. And now you start to get why this situation has become really serious for Vancouver. Already, is there not much of a want for Pettersson to sign during the season, or really much of a confirmation that he'll want to sign in general, but he's already declined a deal that was so lucrative, would have put him in the top tier of NHL players, only behind McKinnon and McDavid, yet there was still a rejection on Pettersson's side. And if you're the Canucks right now, you're pressing the full panic button. What could actually get him to sign in the end? 13 million, 14 million? How much is it going to take? We got this from Sportsnet 650. I asked someone a lot more dialed in than me yesterday, how frustrated are the Canucks that PD won't even come to the table? And the answer was very. That makes complete sense from the Canucks. You have this star centerman in Elias Pettersson, and you want to at least establish some sort of communication with him during this season, and not just have him as an RFA to negotiate all this when he doesn't even have a deal for next year. And then you have Darren Drager as well on the Pettersson situation on First Up, saying, I don't believe for a second that it's financial. And that to me is almost the worst case scenario. I mean, I think for Vancouver, they'd love to just throw the bag at him and hope that they can sign. I mean, they already did. They already offered him a $12 million contract. And you could kind of tell that, especially with Pettersson not even trying to negotiate, that it might be more than just money. It might be some discontent with the situation with the franchise, which with how well they're doing this year was fascinating. I mean, Pettersson had a kind of a quote at the early season saying that he wanted to be on a true contender. He wanted to be on a team that won, and he wanted Vancouver to kind of prove around him that they could be a contender. Well, they've done just that. Not only have they proved to be a contender, they've gone out and bought a Zadorov. They bought a Lindholm. They bought a lot in to the team to bring in more talent and a better chance at a Stanley Cup. This team is obviously serious about contending, about taking those next steps, and yet Pettersson won't even give them a call. To me, if you're Vancouver, it's almost hypocritical from Pettersson's side, the fact that he said that he wanted a team like Vancouver has brought to the table, yet there still seems to be different issues, that it's not even about money, it's about something else. Well, if the team is winning and they're giving you the bag, what could it possibly be? Does Pettersson just not like the Vancouver market? Does he not like the Canadian pressure? Does he want to go to a different team that maybe has more Swedes or something? I mean, the Canucks have Swedes. They brought in Lindholm. I don't know what the problem could be. It's just so weird that this situation has percolated so much from Pettersson, a player that should be a franchise face for this Canucks team, yet might not even be on the team next year. And that would be one heck of a shame, man, because even though there has been some inconsistencies, especially this month, this February has not been very good for him, but he's still on pace for 102 points, tying his dynamic year last season, and on pace to reach the 40 goal mark too. This is still a fantastic franchise talent for this Vancouver team that I don't think they can afford to lose. I've seen a lot of Canucks fans saying, oh, we might just get rid of Pettersson if his head's not in it. But even if it isn't, losing a Pettersson type player would do massive damage to this Canucks team. Maybe they're able to re-sign Lindholm if Pettersson doesn't end up signing, and maybe they just run a Miller and Lindholm top two center core, which wouldn't be bad, but losing Pettersson, losing this big FA would do a lot of damage, I think, for the future of the team. I mean, I think some younger players would come in and be kind of worried if Pettersson's leaving, why not me? I bet players are looking at Pettersson where he has the perfect situation. He's on a contender, the Sedins are in the front office, his GM is Swedish. Everything for Pettersson should be there, right? Everything that he should want should be in Vancouver. And it's just kind of hard to understand why he wouldn't want to re-sign there. And for as much of a dream as this Canucks season has been, now you have the Pettersson situation looming over everything. Really, if this continues, right as the Canucks season ends, it's going to be right to Pettersson and the rumors there, as it should be. And you look at it, he's making $7.3 million this year, and he's an RFA after this. He has no contract. He could be going anywhere after this, and that's really the scariest thing. And then of course you have the fact that Elias Pettersson is offer sheet eligible this year, and him being an RFA becomes even more interesting. Now, especially if we were to see an Elias Pettersson offer sheet, it would be in the astronomical range. It would be something that would make it hard for Vancouver to sign, but again would probably still force Vancouver to try to sign. It would probably be at least in like the 13 million range, maybe even more on top of that. I could see a team trying to snag him, or even just making life difficult for the Vancouver Canucks, putting up this sky-high offer sheet that Vancouver might be forced to end up taking. But of course, you see, if it's over 10.7 million, which if any Elias Pettersson offer sheet were to happen, it would be over that, the team would have to give up 4 first-round picks, which would be a pretty heavy haul, but also for Pettersson, might be worth it, honestly. I mean, this guy is still in the prime of his career. If you were able to sign him long-term, I'd give up 4 first-round picks for Petey. Are you kidding me? What are the chances that even one of those first-round picks even becomes close to a player of Pettersson's level? I don't think it's quite likely. But still, that price and, of course, giving up that many first-round picks when a team, of course, can fluctuate no matter what is why we don't see offer sheets most of the time for players on this level. It's usually more in, again, like the Jesperi Kotkaniemi range where we usually see offer sheets happen. A Pettersson offer sheet would really set the tone for the rest of the NHL, and it would completely change things. We don't really see star players offer sheeted. If we were to see Pettersson offer sheeted, it would completely change this league. Still though, if we do see Pettersson leave, I do think it's more likely that we see him sign another shorter term deal with Vancouver and then leave in free agency afterwards. But I think again, the fact that we aren't seeing Pettersson talk with Vancouver at all, not wanting to do with anything about contract negotiations, I get it. But again, it's not just that. It's also the word that he just doesn't want anything to do with this Vancouver team long term. That's starting to get people to worry. But really, every NHL team should be taking calls on Pettersson, should be calling Vancouver to try to make a deal happen, because this is a franchise centerman. And even though he hasn't had as dominant of a year as maybe I would have expected in terms of the actual play on the ice, the points have still been there. And I think next year we're going to see Pettersson back at that unreal top 5 center level. And if it's with a different team, he's going to make a mark no matter what. One team I've seen a lot of people talk about when it comes to Pettersson is the Detroit Red Wings. I've seen a lot of Red Wings fans wanting to go after Pettersson as well, which could be a really interesting type of trade. You probably have to bump down Larkin to the second line center spot, but I'm sure for Detroit that is not too much of a problem there. And Detroit definitely has the assets to be able to get a deal like that done. They have so many guys in the prospect pool, so many guys that I think Vancouver would like as well on the NHL roster too, and a lot of flexibility to make a deal happen. I also think for Detroit, it's also could be a really interesting fit to really propel them into that next level. I mean, if you're able to have a first line of a DeBrincat, Pettersson, I mean, it doesn't matter what that top 6 looks like, it would be nutty. The big thing is he is still an RFA, and there is still some leverage on Vancouver's end. So if we were to see a trade, it would be unreal. It would have to be like a JT Compher, maybe even a Lucas Raymond on the NHL roster. It would be giving up guys that Detroit really would not want to give up. But they have one of the best prospect pools in the NHL and a plethora of guys that I think Vancouver would end up liking. I mean, Axel Sandin-Pellikka might be a guarantee in a deal like that, but I do think for Detroit, they would have the assets to get it done if they want to go that direction. Another team I could maybe see is maybe the Columbus Blue Jackets. If it is maybe a market thing and Pettersson just doesn't like the attention, then I think Columbus could be a pretty interesting fit there. And Columbus does also have one of the best prospect pools in the NHL too. It would really decimate their roster because they don't have a lot of NHL guys that I think Vancouver would even like, honestly, and nor should they. But I do think it could kind of solve their first line center issues. I don't know what would end up happening there. To me, I still think Van Tilly can be that guy, but if a player like Pettersson wants to come and sign long term, how could you say no? People, of course, naturally will also be climbing for the New York Rangers, but I think until we see Zibanejad really fall off a big cliff, I don't think that New York is going to be really prioritizing getting a player like Pettersson. Maybe if he signs a shorter term deal with Vancouver and then hits free agency, maybe the Rangers would be in on that. I think that would be a lot more likely. For a trade, though, even though they could maybe have the assets, I don't see it as likely there. I mean, we're talking about an Elias Pettersson trade. It's probably not likely at all in the first place, but I still think the Rangers would be a more free agent team. I mean, they've signed Artemi Panarin in the past. Pettersson wouldn't be all too surprising either. No matter what, though, if we see a Pettersson trade, it is going to be for a massive haul. Even if he might be an RFA, it is going to take a lot for Vancouver to actually trade him in the end. Just imagine one of your favorite players on your team that is sick as heck being dealt, because that's what it's going to take. And a couple first-round picks and a top prospect, another NHL player on top of that. That's what we're talking about here. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think of these Elias Pettersson trade rumors? What do you think will actually happen? Do you see him staying or leaving the Vancouver Canucks? Let us know all your thoughts down below. And if we do see a Pettersson trade, where do you think he ends up? Let us know all your thoughts. And of course, share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Click on that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you guys haven't all as well. And make sure you guys click on this card for all of my trade rumor content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I hope you have a fantastic hockey day. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.